Bern Szukalski from ESRI, who, as he said a little bit ago, we're all going to be drinking from the fire hose. So, Bernie, looking forward to it. You're on.
Thank you. Thanks. Thanks, everybody, for having me back here again. It's always a privilege and an honor for me to be here in front of such esteemed people such as yourselves. I am, full disclosure, I am not a geodesigner, and that fact will become painfully obvious to you during my demonstration here. So bear with me and forgive me that fact. But what I'd like to do today is fire hose you a little bit by demonstrating and showcasing some ESRI technology that's been evolving and is up and coming. Some of the things you're about to see here today are brand new. They haven't even been released yet. So we'll take that as it comes along. So today we're really fortunate. We're very lucky in that we have access to lots and lots of information. So a lack of information is not necessarily what we suffer from, but oftentimes what we lack is our ability to communicate that information in effective ways, or our ability to collaborate with others using that information. So that is an issue for us in some ways. So how do we as humans communicate? Well, we communicate in lots of different ways. We communicate using pictures, photographs, movies. We communicate using art. It's another great way that we communicate and connect with our audiences. And as GIS people, we communicate using maps. As geodesigners, we communicate using our plans and our projects and our designs. And GIS maps are unique. They're built using a formal information model. And they're authoritative. They're based on authoritative content that comes from authoritative sources. So when you use these, you know that you can rely on the information that you can derive and understand from using them. GIS people embed their knowledge and their tradecraft in these maps, and a great map or a great app is very simple to use and very easy to understand. A map is also how we share our geographic knowledge. Geography is the foundation for everything that we do. Everything that we do. As geodesigners, as GIS people, as planners, as architects, geography is what matters to us. In fact, geography is how we think. But when it comes to really good geodesign or really good GIS, we need to take the I thinks and transform that into something more powerful, something more meaningful. We need to turn the I thinks into the I or we understand. And the way that we do that is we use GIS as our vehicle to turn geography into something more powerful and more potent, and that's geographic understanding. Jack earlier today talked about how GIS is being transformed by the cloud. And certainly over the last couple of years since the cloud has emerged as part of the ArcGIS platform, we've seen some very powerful and transformational capabilities appear. Jack addressed many of these earlier today. They leverage existing frameworks and platforms and technologies. They integrate all types of different data, sensor technologies, and they provide a platform that we can use to extend what we do and make our jobs easier and better. This platform integrates information and it supports collaboration, and perhaps most important is it makes GIS and geodesign easier, always available, more collaborative, and more social. ArcGIS Today is not software, but it's a platform. It's a complete ecosystem is the way I like to look at it, and it supports many types of users, individuals, work groups, cities, local governments, entire world governments embrace and use GIS. It's used in a variety of different scales, and it supports many different patterns of implementation. ArcGIS is also a platform, as you've seen this morning and throughout the rest of this conference. It's a very strong platform for geodesign. And the pieces of it that make it a very strong GIS platform are exactly why it's such a strong platform for geodesign as well. One of the most exciting things that's been happening lately is that this platform is enabling us to reach new audiences. Years ago, the geodesign community, represented well here today, was a new audience. And this platform has grown and evolved that enables us to not only reach each other and reach you, but also reach the other folks that we need to communicate with. The planners, the public, many different ways that this platform can be leveraged now to reach these new audiences. Part of that is being accomplished through new destinations which are arising. Some of these destinations are being driven by the user community. So the ArcGIS Online homepages of cities and local governments and federal governments across the globe are emerging as important data repositories for all of us to tap into and use. ESRI is also crafting some new destinations that help us reach some of these new audiences. We have a developer site which is reaching developers. Developers can access the rich capabilities of GIS and the content that we have to create their own maps and apps. We also have something new that we introduced this year called Marketplace. This will grow to be an increasingly important part of your geodesign community. And I was just talking to a gentleman outside just during the break about how he wants to leverage this as a platform so that he can reach his intended audience with his information. It's pretty interesting. It's the App Store for GIS. Jack earlier talked about how content is evolving. It's a very large investment on ESRI's part, and it's evolving rapidly in many different directions. It includes new base maps, new layers, as well as real-time information that can be incorporated into our work. Jack also talked about how the cloud is now supporting true GIS capabilities on the web. We'll take a look at a few of these, but increasingly these will become fundamental to the work that you do, and they will become an inherent part of the applications and the projects that you work with simply by being connected to the cloud. But most important, I think, and what I really like to key in on is that this is more than just a platform even. It's more than just a collection of content and capabilities. It's a true ecosystem, and it's an ecosystem that's participatory. It enjoins GIS professionals with professionals such as yourself and with the public and with the world at large, and that to me is probably the most exciting aspect of where we are today. So without further ado, what I'd like to do is kind of roll out the fire hose here a little bit. And we'll take a look. This will be a grand tour of a potpourri of ESRI technology. And I can honestly tell you that I'm not 100% certain what I'm going to show you even as I begin right now. But let's begin here. Let's talk about content a little bit. One of the things that's really interesting is this concept of a living planet, a collection of data that's constantly expanding, rapidly evolving, always being updated, and always available online. And this is an ESRI site where you can go and explore some of the content that's available. So here's some imagery content. You can learn more about base maps, about the Community Maps program, and about some of the demographic information that's available for you to use in your design projects. Let's take a look at some of the other categories. Here's a category called Life. We can look at the ecology layers, U.S. wetlands, or U.S. woody biomass. So these layers are available. There's many others: species biology, ecological disturbance, many more. Take a look at the people category. Here is demographic information, infographics and reports, boundaries and places, urban systems, transportation, and also risk and environmental impact. Let's take a quick look at environmental impact. We'll drill into that a little bit further. So from this website, what we're doing is we're opening up the ArcGIS Online repository where this category in the Living Atlas is stored and available for you to use. I found this one just earlier today. This is pretty interesting. This is cooling needs. Cooling degrees day reflect the demand for cooling potential and cooling power, and this is a map which shows that across the United States. So this is something we can very easily bring into our daily work and our projects and begin to use. So this rich living atlas is available for you to use. Let's take a look at how this reflects itself in the ArcGIS Online web map experience. So here I have a web map. I've zoomed into Los Angeles here. And the way that I discover these is by browsing these ESRI maps and layers. You can see they're easily discoverable here. Here's the complete list, and I can also view them by category. So I can look at temporal imagery. So this is imagery that when I access it and open it in my map, brings up a little time slider, and I'm able to view this imagery over time. Should the internet cooperate with me? There we go. And now I can view this over time by using this little time slider, which automatically appears because the web map is smart enough to understand that this is temporal-based data. Let's take a look at some of the other layers that we can add to our map. Again, I'm browsing ESRI map layers, and we'll choose a different category. Let's look through land cover. Here's all the different land cover categories available. Or we can look for species biology. Here's some habitat information that covers a lot of territory. So what's really great about this is readily available to you, and anybody can use this. Let's take a look at a little different category. This represents some real-time information. This is a world traffic service, and I can add this to my map, and we can take a look at what traffic conditions are like currently in the LA Basin. Actually looks pretty good for this time of day right now. But this also gives me an opportunity to showcase some of the other work that we've been doing with base maps. ArcGIS has a vast collection of different base maps that I can choose from. We have imagery base map, we have the community base map, we have the light gray canvas base map, and I think a base map that's currently in beta that will be very, very popular is this one, which I'll turn on as a layer. This is the world dark gray base map. So this will help us present our information in meaningful ways which pop out and attract our audiences. Let's move on and let's consider web scenes. Web scenes are very interesting. They're built using City Engine, which is a technology that, of course, is widely used throughout the geodesign community. What's happened recently is that we've created a data model for vegetation and created these symbols which are accurate for the different types of plants that we might be working with in a landscape architecture environment. So here I'm very quickly moving through a design for a little garden area which might be part of an urban renewal effort. And you'll discover more about this during the rest of the conference. Let's move on to another topic, and that is destinations for information. So ArcGIS Online has been rapidly adopted by organizations across the world, and you can find their portals that publish information at a variety of different scales. Here's a good example of a city portal from Salt Lake City. So I can come here and discover authoritative information, which I can make my own maps from this website. I can also look at state-level data. Here's a very nice site which just appeared not too long ago. This is from the Commonwealth of Kentucky. This provides state-level data across the Commonwealth that one can discover and use in our own applications. And it's not limited to just cities and states, but also includes federal agencies. So what this means to you, the importance of this to you, is that this is a vast foundation, a vast repository of content, not just from ESRI, but also from users across the planet that you can tap into and use for your work. So information has never been more available than it is today. Let's move on to another topic. This is something brand new. We're actually going to be unveiling this at our federal user conference, I think a week after next. And this is called ArcGIS for Open Data. This is a configurable application which sits inside of an organization and lets organizations create open data portals. This portal is pretty vanilla right now. It's just sort of gray, but you'll be able to customize it to your own organization's look and feel. Here I've searched for Utah. I might want to continue on and look for things that deal with maybe Utah State Parks. We see the extent of the boundary that displays here. I might want to search for a particular organization that's contributed data, in this case the Utah DNR. And when I find what I like, I can learn a little bit more about it. I can see how many features are in this, how many attributes, how many views it has. And when I open this up, I can take another view of it. I can look at it in tabular form, and I can ask questions and query. What's really interesting is I can download all of these data sources in a variety of different formats. So I can get them locally and I can use them, or I can connect directly to these as services. Since these are services in ArcGIS Online, I can connect to them and use them directly in my applications. If I find something that's of interest to me, I can also subscribe to it and stay tuned to any changes or any derivatives that are being made from that work. So this will be an important part of ArcGIS organizations. Let's move on to a slightly different topic, and I did a workshop Monday, half-day workshop, some of you attended, on story maps, and this has been just an amazing thing to watch. Story maps are very simple in concept. They combine media along with maps and enable people to tell stories. As geodesigners, we want to tell stories. So here's an example of a story map which talks to us about the Olympics and some of the past controversies that have occurred during Olympics. That's just one example. Let's take a look at another example. By the way, this is storymaps.esri.com, the website that you can go to find these. Some of these are just informational. This is what's called the short list template, which lets us organize topics of interest by theme. So here's design-related things in downtown Washington, D.C. Here's food-related and attractions. And what's interesting about this template is that it's aware of geography. So as I zoom in or zoom out, or as I pan around the map, I see different things display. When I find something of interest, I can drill in and get a few more details about that. So these are places of interest, but put this in the geodesign context. Many of these story map templates make powerful tools for you to tell your own story. Here's an interesting one that I found just earlier this morning. This talks about the rebirth of the burbs. This is about Carmel, Indiana, and it talks about how suburbia has turned an obsolete town center into a more vibrant destination. So again, we're combining media with maps to tell a story about urban renewal in this case. There's many other interesting stories that you can find here. I never appreciated cinder blocks more than I did when I discovered this. This is fascinating. This is called block spotting, and apparently there's somebody in the LA area that's an aficionado of cinder block. And we can take a tour and look at all these great little architectural niceties throughout Los Angeles that are made from block. It's very interesting. I never thought of block as interesting, but this has enlightened me. Let's take a look at a couple of other examples. I like this one because it represents sort of like a micro tour in some ways, maybe a macro tour. But this is the Greenville Zoo. This is Greenville, North Carolina, I believe. And this is a little tour of the zoo. And as I go through the zoo, we can look at where the different animals are. But imagine this being a project plan with your designs on there. That is a great photograph, isn't it? And let's take a look at, these are just great to just kind of tour through. They're used for bread and butter applications too. So this is one I just discovered the other day. This is the County of San Bernardino Department of Public Works. And this is meant to be a public access application which talks about where their capital improvement projects are and provides a few more details about those. These can also do all sorts of interesting things. Here's one that uses a map tour to tell us about protecting the Sacramento River watershed and its water source. So that's a very good environmental story. Here's one that talks about sea level rise, and what this deals with is sea level rise here in the state of Delaware. So we can use this little slider tool and we can look at the mean high water rise at 0.5 meter, 1 meter, and 1.5 meters. Now one of the interesting things I noticed is that apparently, as we zoom out here a little bit, here is New Jersey on the right, and apparently the water is not going to rise there. So this means that Governor Chris Christie can not only stop traffic on the bridge, but he can also stop sea level rise in the state of New Jersey. So you can learn a lot from a map. This is an interesting one which lets us look at some historical maps. So this is using the similar template. In fact, it's the same template to the one we just looked at, but it's a slightly different implementation. This gives us a nice little spyglass interface, which helps us look at yesterday compared to today. That's a very nice story map. And we can also now, and this is a fairly recent advance, we can include other media besides just photos and story maps. So here's a very good example by ESRI's own Matt Arts, which talks about earthquakes. And in this case, what it does is it embeds a video which allows us to tell more of a detailed story about what might happen should a major earthquake event happen in this location. So media is pretty interesting in the context of these stories. And there's yet another example. These are governors who tweet. So we're actually embedding live tweets from governors across the United States so we can see what they're thinking and what's going on. I can open up this window a little bit further to view their tweets and so forth. So bringing in social media into the context of story maps is also very interesting. And we even have story maps which talk about geodesign projects. Perhaps some of you have discovered this one already, but this is one that Shannon helped put together. And this one talks about geodesign projects across the globe. And you can explore the map or you can explore the different projects and learn more about these. What a great vehicle to reach a larger audience. And a new one that we're working on, which will be available here very shortly, is this one. This is called the Geo Blog. So this will allow you to blog about your projects, involve the public. What's really interesting about this is it not only includes text and media, but it also allows us to interact and do things like turn on different layers as you read in the Geo Blog. So here I've turned on population, here I've turned on the roads. This will be really powerful and really cool. James Fallows from the Atlantic Monthly is actually using an early version of the Geo Blog for his journeys across the United States, which are published in the Atlantic. Let's just take a closer look at this and let's see what's involved in making one of these. So here we are at the ESRI campus, and I've begun a little story map. You just had lunch at the cafe, and you may have noticed the geography sign that's just outside the ESRI cafe there. So I've got a couple of things started here. I've got a little location out here, which is at the entranceway to ESRI, and then this is one of the great plants, which is just outside this building here, outside in the parking lot. Perhaps you've seen it. Let's switch to builder mode. Since I own this, I can go into builder mode, and I can add or import some additional media. Let's import. I'm going to go out to my Flickr site, and I'll connect up to my account. And now I can choose from any of my sets, and let's choose my ESRI Campus set, and let's begin importing some additional photos into my map. So this is pretty cinchy to do. Let's see what we have here. Okay, here's the ESRI Campus security. Lord knows where they are. They could be anywhere. We'll put them out in the parking lot here. Here's the water feature, which is outside building Q here. So let's add that to our map. And let's see what else we can add here. There's Bubba. Bubba's the campus cat. And he usually hangs out here around building A. So we'll just drop him in place there. I click import, and now I've added some additional photos to my map. Let's do something even more interesting. Let's go back to this 3D web scene. Let's grab this web scene. I'm just going to copy that URL, and let's go ahead and add that to our map. And in this case, it's going to be another, and I'm going to plug that in right there. Let's see, I need to have a thumbnail URL for that, and let's see if I can find a good one. I think maybe this one will work. So let's grab that one of Jack there, and let's put that in as the thumbnail for this location, and we'll add our tour point. Oh, I need to complete some more information. We'll make this Jack's garden design. And then we need to place it on the map somewhere. I'll use a different symbol, and we'll go ahead and let's place it here on campus and add a tour point. Now what's really interesting now is inside of our map tour, we actually have a 3D web scene that can become part of the story that we want to tell. So these capabilities, being able to integrate video and websites, help us leverage these map tours, these story maps, in very interesting ways for geodesign projects. Think about this. This is really cool stuff that we can do here. All right, let's continue on, and let's take a look at another destination. So this is the ESRI Marketplace, and this is sort of the GIS app store for ArcGIS Online users. And you can find lots of different content here, and it's all categorized. So here's some business content, some government-related content, some architecture-related content. Some of these are services, data services that you can subscribe to and add to your map. There's real-time weather, those types of services, and others are applications. An application that I wanted to feature is one here from ESRI, and this is called ESRI Insights. This is a very interesting application because it taps into the new and growing geo-enrichment services that we're adding to ArcGIS Online. So in this case, I'll open up the application directly from the Marketplace, and you can do this yourself. And this is a little sample app which demonstrates some of the capabilities. So here we are in San Francisco. I'll grab this pin and drop it in the middle of San Francisco, and it's buffering that location by a mile, and it's enriching that location by tapping into these services and returning some age information. So that's the age pyramid for this particular part of San Francisco. Now if I click over here by Berkeley, let's compare that. Wow, look at that. Why is that different? Campus. So I see here that the largest group here is women aged 20 to 24, and the smallest group is men aged 80 to 84. If I come up here to Mill Valley, we'll see the demographics change here quite a bit. Right? Mill Valley is a very expensive place, so it's mostly people that are in their more mature years, unlike me, that have made a lot of money, and you can see that here in the demographic reports. We can also look at other information like the tapestry segments and so forth. And these are very valuable tools that you can use and experiment with. And the way that these reflect themselves inside of ArcGIS Online is here. I'll show you this example. So here I've started a map, and these happen to be hospital locations in Louisville, Kentucky. So these hospital locations just contain attribute information about these hospitals. But suppose I want to know more about the community nearby these hospitals. How do I do that? I can check the hospitals, and here's perform analysis. And these are all the analysis tools which are currently available. I can buffer, I can find locations, I can do data enrichment, and I can enrich this layer with additional information. And I've done that. And what I've done here is if we go back here, I'll turn on my enriched layer. I've added some information about the population diversity within 5 miles of each hospital location. So I can learn a little bit more about the community that these hospitals serve. That's one way that we can use these geo-enrichment services, but there's many other geo-processing and analysis tools which are available. Here I've created 3/4 mile buffers around the hospital locations. Here I've added 2-mile buffers around the hospital locations. And earlier I showed you that live transportation data, that global live transportation data. What I did was I did a drive time analysis. These are 1, 3, 5, and 10-minute drive times from each hospital based on Monday noon drive times. So information is available that lets us specify the time of day that we might want to do a drive time analysis. And think about what this might mean for your geodesign projects that require you to think about a constantly mobile population traveling back and forth between destinations. So this is a very rich set of tools which will add lots of value to your work. And let's take a look at one final thing. And I've already apologized personally to Bill Miller and Greg Pleiss, who are in this audience. This is their work, and this is a brand new product. Actually, it's not even brand new yet. It's about ready to go into holistic testing on this Friday, and it will be unveiled later this year. So this is very much a work in progress, but I think this is very exciting because what it does is it marries everything that I've talked to you about already. It marries the GIS capabilities, it marries the content, it marries the community into your ability to design and compare and assess geodesign projects. So let's take a look and see how this works. So first, the Landscape Planner is a new application. It's a browser-based application that supports land-related planning and design activities, and it sits and rests on top of ArcGIS Online. One of the things I can do is I can create a new project from a template. Now you'll notice There's a couple of missing graphics here. That's because of where we are in the development process. But there will be a suite of templates that you can pick up and use to initiate your own plans. What I've done is I have created a project which is about a redevelopment plan in El Cajon, which is to the south of here. I'm going to open up that project and we'll take a little look at what that project is about. So in this case, let's turn off my redevelopment designs here. What I've got are some potential areas that we might want to use in our redevelopment. So what are the criteria that we need to look at for these areas, and what's going to differentiate them, and which one's going to be the best? We might want to look at conservation lands. So there's a layer here which lets us do that. We may have used the landscape modeler to do some advanced modeling, and the results of that model from ArcGIS Desktop or the modeler can also be brought in the context of our Geodesign project here. Another thing we might want to do is look at the natural environment. These are streams and these are local highways. We've created buffers around the local highways, and when we look at those buffers, we can see each of these proposed project areas is about the same. They're all outside of a half-mile buffer of the highways, which is what we want. But if we turn on the streams, it becomes obvious that one of these areas is the one that seems the most optimal because it avoids those half-mile buffers around streams. So let's focus on that one for just a second. All right, so let's look at some additional layers. So what we've done here is we've done some kind of prototyping, some land use prototyping around this area. We've also added a proposed light rail line. And one of the things that we wanted to do was make sure that industrial areas, which are represented here in the blue, we would discover that here from the legend, the light industrial areas we want to place pretty near the rail lines here. So that's this area here. As I work with my project, first and foremost, I should mention that I can invite collaborators into the project, and we can collaborate over these and compare our designs. That's one of the most important aspects of this as an application as well. But what I'd like to do is I'd like to edit this project a little bit, and let's create some more data. One of the things I can do is I can grab any of these polygons and I can reshape and I can move it around, but at the same time I can assess what's going on in my project by looking at this pie chart. So let's add, let's see, I'm an open space fan, so let's add some more open space. And we'll add a big chunk of open space out here. And as soon as I add that polygon, you saw my open space pie chart change. So this is a dynamic live view, an iterative view that's happening as we design our projects. And we can view and see what's going on. Another thing that we've done is we've added some light rail here. And the light rail we buffered. And one of the things you want to factor into this project is the industrial areas or maybe residential areas should be near the light rail as a mode of transportation. And we can examine how these areas compare to the light rail. And let me just turn on my light rail assessment A. And this is really interesting now because I can click on each of these little pieces of the pie and I can see how they fit in relationship to these buffered areas around the light rail. So let's make a little change here to demonstrate that. And I'm going to do something probably a little unrealistic, but let's just kind of move my light industrial area out here. And when I drop and let it go, look at the chart down below. So I can see here that now there is 21% of my proposed light industrial area that's now outside where I want it to be. It's on the fringes of proximity to the light rail lines. And likewise, I can click on these different polygons here. Here's my open space, and I can analyze where that fits into this spatially. What's also interesting is that I can compare multiple ones. So let's take a look at a couple of different designs. So here we have a couple of different proposed projects. I'm going to compare scenario A to scenario B. What's really different here is that we've put in the rail lines in different places, and we've also changed our land use, or proposed land use. And let's compare how these work, and we'll bring up those little charts again. So this provides us an interactive way which allows us to compare and contrast different geodesign projects and plans in a collaborative manner. So this will be coming out soon, and I think this will be one of the most exciting pieces of technology for your portfolio in the year ahead. So with that, that's my fire hose tour. Thank you very much, and enjoy the rest of the conference.